All right, Jack, we're back and better than ever. Welcome back to the Colin Thompson Show, brought to you by Not For Long Media. We are coming to you live on Twitter, on YouTube, not on Facebook. Thank you, Facebook. And we are hanging out, and we're really excited to have the great Marc Farzetta join the show. Marc is someone who was born and raised, I shouldn't say born, but raised in my hometown of Doylestown, Pennsylvania, and then went on to go to Archbishop Wood, where I went to school, and then went on the Temple, where I went to school. And we have a lot in common, obviously, where schools we graduated from, towns we grew up in. And Marc has had a ton of success in the Philly sports media scene, a true grinder. This episode's not all about just what it takes to be a sports media person, just what it takes to have success. Marc was very gracious with his time. So a really fun episode with Marc we're going to put on the back end of our introduction like we usually do with me and Jack. So Marc, again, you can't thank you enough for your time. What a true pro. Someone does it the right way in this industry. And now his own show, The Frazy Show, every morning, Monday through Friday, I believe 6 to 7 a.m. Could be wrong there, but I know it's early in the morning and maybe an hour or 2 hours. So covers really all sports, but primarily Philly sports, and does a great job with it. So Marc, again, thank you for joining the show. Everything we do here, guys, brought to you by our friends over at the Original Fudge Kitchen. I was there this past weekend. Holy cow, man. They're getting things ready for Easter. It is popping off in there. So Easter this year, no better gift. Sent someone a chocolate bunny. I had a chocolate Easter bunny, Jack. Fudge was amazing. Getting me in the Easter spirit here. So again, Fudge Kitchen, they ship fudge, sweet treats, all those goodies across the country. Check out their website, fudgekitchens.com. All right, Jack, how you doing, buddy? How was your weekend, pal?
It was splendid. I got to spend my Friday evening with a couple of cool guys at Gaul and Co. in Port Richmond, Philadelphia.
Ah, yes. The Sam Boners took their show on the road. Went down to Gaul and Co. Shocker, bar of the week this week. This place was tremendous. I'll just jump right ahead and do the bar of the week now. I mean, Jack, a big bar goer like myself, but you do like going to, having wings, chicken tenders, not boneless wings. You like to go, you know what a good bar looks like. That place is unbelievable.
Yeah, it was just absolutely tremendous. It's truly unique. I mean, we'll talk about, but I mean, it is in a old church, so the ceilings were tremendously high. You actually had like booths that were set up. I think they said they weren't pews anymore, but it looked like pews just how it was. The stage that we were on was the altar. You could see like the back room and everything. That was like the altar boys room and everything like that. So it was just a really cool setup. Obviously, they had a bunch of TVs surrounding the bar. But I mean, yeah, it was definitely unique. I don't know if there's really any other place set up like it. I mean, I don't know how many former bars or former churches turned bars there are in our great country, but I can't
No,
imagine there's too many.
this place right in Port Richmond was unbelievable. So, bar of the week this week on the Colin Thompson Show, brought to you by our friends over at the Original Fudge Kitchen, fudgekitchens.com, is none other than Gaul and Co. Malt House, excuse me. We're going to redo that whole thing, Jack. My dog's in the room now. So we have a puppy in the family now, and she has now entered the room. Usually she's upstairs hanging, but my wife's running some errands. So she's, looking for some love and some adoration. I'm giving it to her. So again, the bar of the week this week on the Colin Thompson Show is Malt. Geez, I'm all over the place. Is Gaul and Co. The bar of the week this week on the Colin Thompson Show is Gaul and Co. Malt House in Port Richmond, Philadelphia. This place was unbelievable. I said to somebody today on the phone, I said, I think it's a top 5 bar I've ever been to in my entire life. First off, the bar, huge square bar, really cool, really fun, really accessible, a lot going on. Second, they have these huge church pews for people to sit at and have meals at. They have big dining area. They have games for kids. They just have absolutely a ton going on for things to do for like families to go and eat or just to go there with friends and watch games. You really can't beat it. So absolutely love the place. The wings, the food was incredible. Like unbelievable. The cheesesteaks were ridiculous. The Kabasi cheesesteak was amazing. Guy Fieri's been there before. The wings were just ridiculously well flavored and seasoned, and they brined them in pickle juice. Like it was something ridiculous. Everything was above and beyond what you expect. Service was great. So for me, Gaul and Co. Malt House, Port Richmond, food and ambiance 5, cold beer 4, TVs 5 and a service 5. This place, shout out to Matt and his team there, took care of the Samboners and us, Jack. It was great. To me, it's a top 5, top 10 bar I've ever been to. What a cool little area, Port Richmond, too. So it was cool, Jack. Warmed my heart a little bit. I walked out. They have the playground across the street. There's a basketball court. There's 2 kids playing hockey on it. Brought their own net, brought their own sticks, the whole nine. I was like jacked up about that. It's not a crazy sport, right, in America. Like it is. The U.S. hockey team now is loaded with players. It's taken off. Don't get me wrong, but warm my heart a little bit, Jack. Be honest with you. Warm my heart a little bit. Remind me of my childhood, Jackie. Were you playing hockey growing up, Jack?
I love street hockey, but I have
That's what they were playing.
I have an infamous terrible sense of center balance. I like terrible riding, but I could not skate. Like none of that. I love.
Are you still terrible riding a bike?
Yes.
Can you ride?
I can do it. I can. Yes. I'm just not very good at it.
Okay.
But no, we love playing street hockey. Like in elementary school, like we had forget what it was called, but we would play in our cafe gymatorium. We had little hockey 5-on-5s, an hour after school, once a week in the winter. It was the best part of everybody's week was just playing the hockey. We'd play in the street sometimes. Yeah, I was a big street hockey type guy. But
dude, after school program when I was a kid, amazing. My parents, right, for parents that you can't go home or whatever, my parents would your first couple of years, right, when you're younger, 1st through 3rd grade, 4th grade, the bus drops you off, right, and my parents aren't home for work for another 4 hours or 3 hours. So you go to after school program. They feed you a snack and you play sports the whole time. Are you kidding me? Time you spend 30 minutes doing your homework and then you shoot hoops for the next 2.5 hours with all your friends. That was the greatest. That was huge for my athletic development. Let me just say that. It was massive. Every day you were playing sports for 3 hours, no matter what, with a group. So I didn't live in a big neighborhood per se. It was a couple houses and it wasn't stacked with kids. Still some friends from today, which is crazy. It's been a while, but yeah.
I could talk to that. That's the unique part of our group. Our elementary group is still all around. It's they all live in a neighborhood, and I live directly next to the neighborhood. And as we were growing up, there's a big field that was perfect for football. So we always play football there. There's a basketball court right down the street. We play basketball at, and the elementary school that we went to is torn down, replaced, brand new. It looks like a high school, to be honest. It's probably bigger than CB West right now, to be quite honest with you. And they put brand new basketball courts up, and we still play. Same kids since 4th grade. We still play basketball there once a week.
I love it. Jack in the back, shooting jumpers from deep, like Joel and B.
If anybody wants to see my jump shot, look back 4 months to when I was on the court for a free throw contest at Sixers. Worst jump shot you've ever seen. I love playing basketball. I'm way better defense than I'm at offense by a country mile.
Big effort guy. Good job, Jack. I love it. I'm proud that you're part of Non-From Media if you're an effort defender. Okay. I thought this was interesting, Jack. I saw this on Athletic before we jumped on. This is big news for the NFL. NFL owners voted to allow physical sportsbook to operate on game days starting with 2023 season. League sources tell the Athletic. The vote occurred Monday with NFL owners meetings in Scottsdale, Arizona. Here's what they found. Let's see. Revenue from the sports books will not be shared with other teams up until a certain threshold, believed to be around 20 million, and then pooled with the other 31 clubs for any money that exceeds that bar. Very interesting. The move in the latest sign of NFL's growing to embrace legalized gambling. The Washington Commanders are the only team with a brick and mortar sports book in their stadium, though the Arizona Cardinals and the New York Giants and Jets have one outside their venue. So I think teams are going to be building brick and mortar very quickly inside their stadiums. If you can get casino, if you can get sports betting, if you can get any sort of gambling inside of an establishment, you saw what happened when it was legalized in Jersey. If you went into a casino in Atlantic City, they were just literally putting pieces of paper with the lines on them, small pencils for people to check off what they want, and windows for you to gamble in with a couple 40-inch screen TVs on the wall. Now the sportsbooks there are insane. They're unbelievable to go watch games at. People parade down there for March Madness. The sports gambling is, I don't know if saved Atlantic City, but it's kept it afloat. I'm assuming for someone who doesn't know a lot about the area, but a little bit. It's pretty interesting stuff. So who's it going to affect? The shift affects only the teams and states with legalized sports gambling. Slightly more than 33 states and Washington, D.C. allow sports betting, encompassing roughly 17 NFL franchises. The biggest states not yet to have it are Texas, Florida, California. So huge NFL brands in those states, obviously, which 8 NFL teams, more than half the league's clubs, will not allow sports betting in their state. So some of those are on state lines. It's going to be interesting to see. I'm just reading the article from The Athletic. Athletic's amazing. Love subscribing to them. But an interesting thing that I just saw here, Jack, what are your thoughts on initially as a fan? Are you a sports gambling guy?
I feel like I am contractually obligated to say yes to that question. Not by Not For Long Media, but as with part of the Ross Tucker Football
Well, you don't have to
podcast.
be, Jack, honestly. So, okay, DraftKings Sportsbook, yeah, they take care of Ross Tucker Pod, but that doesn't mean, and you're the producer for it and do everything, man, per usual, like you are for us. But that doesn't mean you can be honest, right? Like, do you gamble? Like, you could say yes or no or no comment, but like, as you're a fan, are you like, would you go and say you're going to an Eagles game? Would you go in there and say, hey, listen, I'm going to get in line here and I'm going to put $10 on the Eagles today? Would you do that? Does that give you a thrill or no?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like a heavy gambler just because, being a college student in America, I don't really have much money to throw around. But I mean, one of the best, like when I'm going to like a Sixers game or like Eagles, wherever I've been going, like our Phillies in the summer, it's like it adds more fun to it. It keeps you engaged more. Like I don't go anything crazy. Like if anything, it's like, oh, like the most when I go out with my friends, like we'll put $5 on like money line or whatever, and then we'll do like a parlay of like hit a home run, hits
So
over under
casual.
points.
So a casual.
Yeah.
Fan gambler. That's cool. No, it's interesting. It's obviously not my world as a player, but to see, I think it's going to be big. I think when you're over like in Europe watching soccer, there's no sports book. The teams are the sports book. You go in there and again, I've never experienced that. It was not like that at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium for what I saw, but several of my friends that I've gone there before said that this is how you gamble over there. They enjoy that more, of course, because it's just something different. But yeah, it's just food for thought. It's no big segment for us, but lots to discuss. Shots and Giggles, guys, the premier bar in Key West, Florida. Locals hanging out, shopping it up. You may be sitting next to a billionaire. You may be sitting next to someone who just fishes for a living. You may be sitting next to the best bartender in town. You may be sitting next to a diehard Eagles fan. You may be sitting next to a diehard Cowboys fan. It is an awesome place with people from all different backgrounds. Super nice, super friendly. The best bartenders and the best owners in Stephen Hanya in the world. Love it down there. I miss it. Hopefully I can get down there mid-April for the Blue Angels. So lots to discuss always at Shots and Giggles, especially during football season. But in the offseason, you can't beat it. It's the NFC East bar. So always something for everybody, whether you're an NFC East fan or you're a hater of one of those teams. Somebody always hates the Eagles. Somebody always hates Cowboys. So it's a great place to fun, chop it up, have a great time. Really great location right off the Ball Street, right behind Sloppy Joe's. Check them out. shotsandgiggleskw.com. All right, Jack. March Madness thoughts.
I did terrible, man. I knew nothing about, I think we talked about this before. I really knew nothing about March Madness going into this season. I kind of took all of my picks on a whim just based on my ideologies about certain seedings, making it far, I don't like having too many 1 seeds go far, which worked out well for me this year. But I had Virginia in my Final Four, and I think they're like the second game they lost.
Yeah.
I had Kansas State winning it all, which was great for me until they lost in the Elite Eight, but that was a great run for me. But every other team I had eliminated. I think Kansas State and like Gonzaga were the 2 teams I had making it to the Elite Eight that actually made it that far. I'm sure everybody's bracket is completely busted by this point because
I got lucky with UConn, right? I just read an article and I just liked that team, but I didn't watch them in the regular season, Jack. And these people that are doing well, they didn't watch any of these games in regular season. You can't. Your mind will lie to you. There's no way you sit down logically and say, I'm going to take this team here. So credit to, it's great. And there's a lot to break down in it. We don't need to go too far on it. I saw Seth Greenberg on ESPN yesterday. A really good, interesting topic from him. There's no one and done players in this Final Four. There's no freshmen. There's no All-American. And it's really all built through like program established players and a couple players in a transfer portal, which I think is awesome. Like everyone's complaining, right? It's so funny. Everybody complains about everything, right? And then you get on shows and everyone talks about people complaining about stuff, right? Because that's just how it is. But my point is, at the end of the day, that's a great recipe for people complaining about NIL, people complaining about programs and blue bloods always making it. And we need a mix up. It's always Duke, UNC, Kentucky, and Kansas. Well, you got it. Don't complain about it now, So I think it's all good. You got to take it for what it's worth. There's a lot to unpack, right? We're not going to go through all these games. We're not going to unpack it because it's just ridiculous. There's so many games. It's the best time of year. So it was a great point.
I think I saw a stat. It was like the total number of Final Four appearances by these 4 teams this year is 9. 5 of them are UConn, just in previous entries, and then the other 4 literally every team making it this year. So it's
great. It's unique. It's been fun to watch for sure. I'll say this, Jack. We are in a sweet spot in the sports calendar. I think it's the best time of year because if you go to the football season, which is unbelievable, right? College football, NFL, it's never ending. There's no championships until like the new year. So you have like 5 months of season, which is great. It's fun. NBA starts then. MLB's winding down. That's like your one championship. NBA's rocking and rolling, getting started just after the NHL, I believe. So that's a great time. It's an exciting time, but it's not like what's about to happen. You got March Madness, March and early April. You have the NBA playoffs. You have the NHL playoffs. You have the Masters. You have the NFL draft. If you're a Premier League fan and Champions League fan, they both finish up. Kentucky Derby, and then move to the Summer College World Series. So, and then obviously baseball season starting. So you have, to me, this is the best time of year. You have major championships across all major sports. If you're a baseball fan, college baseball has been unreal so far. Check out Breaking Bats. We talked about it on there. There's a lot to, obviously, with the MLB and spring training, and then the World Baseball Classic. That was fantastic. So there's just a lot going on. To me, it's the sweet spot in the calendar every year. Buckle up. It started with March Madness, and it's an absolute tremendous run. From when the Super Bowl ends, there's a gap, and then March Madness starts, and it's chaos until midsummer. You take a break. There's a little drama sometime in the summer in the NFL, and boom, right back at it. College football's got 80 games on the first weekend in one city, and we're rocking and rolling.
Really? I mean, I definitely, it's nice being in the downswing of football after for a very lengthy season, working in it from a media perspective, getting able to enjoy the other sports while the draft is ramping up, all that stuff. So it's so exciting. I mean, the NFL, I mean, this is by far the most entertaining start of the offseason. Usually like these couple of weeks is like when things die down a bit, but really seems like it hasn't skipped a beat in terms of holding the media's attention for the last several weeks.
Yeah, it really has. The NFL between Aaron Rodgers and Lamar Jackson. I mean, I can't watch ESPN anymore as my dog comes trampling in here. ESPN or not, I love NFL Network, like these great shows, and they're doing a great job trying to talk about something else, but it's hard not to, right? Like it's really hard not to talk about what's going on in the world today of sports because they're the two former MVPs, like 2 generational talents in the NFL, and they're both in the move. So there's a lot to discuss there. And I personally want to get into it all, but I just can't professionally. It's really hard for me. Like it's easy for me to talk amongst my friends at a bar and be like, hey, this is what I think is going to happen here. What's going to happen there? But for me professionally to make a comment about what's going to happen with a player, I don't really like to dabble in that woods. But Jack, what do you think happens with Lamar Jackson? Jack?
I just feel like all signs are pointing towards Lamar Jackson ending up back in Baltimore. They have whatever it is, the franchise tag. It's not an exclusive franchise. No, I think it's really called a non-exclusive franchise tag. But I mean, every team that has come out and it's been linked to Lamar have pretty much said, nah, we're good. Washington literally said like 2 days ago, we're fine with Sam Howell and Jacoby Brissett. Indianapolis said, we are interested in our team. We don't want to give a fully guaranteed contract. Atlanta earlier today committed to Desmond Ridder as their starter. There are really no other teams out there that need a quarterback. New York is not straying away from Aaron Rodgers. That's just not how they're going to roll. I mean, who else is out there that needs a quarterback? Tampa Bay seems to be fine with going in with Kyle Trask and Baker. Like, it doesn't really seem like any
funny season, Jack. I wouldn't believe all what you read, buddy.
My thing is though, with teams in open negotiations to quarterback, I feel like it's never been this blatantly all teams going out and saying, no, we're good right away. I mean, when else have you ever seen so many teams say that about a quarterback?
I'll say this. This is what I'm going to say. That was a hell of an intro. I'll say this. This is what I'm going to say. Real professional. I'll say this, Jack. I think that he ends up with the Ravens, or after the draft, a team is on the cusp of being good and moving out of the top 10, the top 15 draft picks where you're going to get the blue chip players, where if they have a good year, they're going to be out of that pool and they're going to be a playoff team. So a bad team or average team this year, that could be a playoff team that has a little bit of cap space. They're going to draft a blue chip player because they found themselves with a top 15 pick. And then the following 2 years, they're going to forfeit their next draft picks and go get Lamar. That's would be my, that's to me, that's no hot take or anything. I just think that's what would happen. Obviously, two options, right? But I don't think it's like before that. I don't know if a team would give up. Well, who knows? I just think we have no idea. And to sit here and say we think this and that is crazy. I always tell people, fans, friends, Jack, everyone who's involved and wants to be involved with the NFL. I've been extremely blessed to be involved with it. It's been my childhood dream and goal, and I've been blessed to make it. I hope I continue to play. Read 10% of it. Whatever you read and listen to is 10% of it's true. 10%. Like, can you watch a coach's press conference? People really think that's gospel. Now, I know some fans are like, but they still at the end of the day refer back to it. It's like, oh, you see the coach's mood? He's pissed. It's like, you don't know. Like, it's all facade. There's so much that is 0.001% of the coach's day, GM's day, whoever's answering the questions. They aren't giving anybody anything. And not even for competitive advantage. It's just like, yeah, that's my take on a little bit. Guys, shout out to our friend SeatGeek, Colin, Thompson. Use that promo code, $20 off your ticket for $50. Hit that up. All these baseball games going on, you want to get $20 off. Check them out. Jack, I know you want to talk about promo code Colin Thompson, SeatGeek. You want to talk about your boys over Fanatics, Michael Rubin, taking shots. What do you got, Jack, in the back? What do you have to say right now if Michael was on the show?
I am extremely disappointed. It's something I've been vocal about for quite some time. I have been extremely disappointed in the NHL's decision to move forward with Fanatics. I think this is also just a fault of NHL really not being as profitable to these other brands. But it's just hurt because Fanatics for somebody who lives under rock, Fanatics is a clothing apparel brand, specifically sports. And they pretty much control, if you go to like the Eagles team shop, 95% of team shops across all Big Four sports are run by Fanatics. They are notorious for, their quality, and to sum it up, is probably the worst I've seen of any sports gear ever. I've seen multiple people, because I'm a big jersey guy. So like I go on like jersey, like subreddits, and people will do tests and they will order the same jersey 3 times. And 1 out of the 3 jerseys will always be messed up in one significant way. The player's last name will be spelled wrong. There will be a wrong number. It'll be missing something significant. The alignment of things will be wrong. The screen printed jerseys are terrible quality, and they upcharge them much more. I mean, like the Adidas screen printed jersey, they sold $70 back in 2015 or whatever. Those were, they were screen printed jerseys, but it was like a nice vinyl pressed. These is just like, they are not great quality. And it's just, they are starting to lower their quality and spread themselves too thin. And I don't like it. And it just seems like it's not good. NHL stuff has been atrocious in terms of quality. And for example, the NFL, Nike, they've been trying to release throwback jerseys that got approved last year. A lot of the stuff couldn't get done because Fanatics didn't have enough stock in place to get them out. That's also a Nike issue, but it was between the both of them. Phillies couldn't wear baby blue jerseys until like June last year because they couldn't get enough shipment in time. Eagles, Kelly Green, they literally said it was because, I think it was Tampa Bay, literally came out and said, we cannot produce the creamsicle jerseys this year because of supply issues.
Well, that's not on Fanatics.
But they're the supplier.
But they're not the supplier, though. There's a supplier before the supplier where they get the jerseys from. That's the issue, Jack. That's a global issue. All
right. Well, again, this is like issue number 7 of like my stuff with Fanatics. It's just,
I get it.
They haven't shown me anything. And this is my last thing, and I want you to take over. It's just the alarm. They have not shown a commitment to make a better quality good. Now, I'm not saying they got to come out here and make like old school Mitchell and Ness, but even Mitchell and Ness, they bought out Mitchell and Ness, a company that is known for throwback jerseys of extremely high quality. Now they have a premium price to it, which is fair. They're very good. They're expensive. Fanatics immediately dipped the quality and changed their stitching quality to iron-on stuff from purely stitched, and they kept the price and probably made about $30 cheaper. They are ruining the integrity of sporting goods, in my honest opinion. And I hope Michael Rubin, like maybe the NHL and seeing this stuff, maybe he comes out and makes great authentic jerseys. I don't know. And I would hope to see it change. I would love to see a massive company make goods this way. But everything this show made, it's no bueno.
Interesting points on Fanatics and Michael Rubin. Personally, I think they're going to do a fantastic job for the NFL. And here's why. Excuse me, for the NHL. And here's why. It is extremely important for them to do really well because the players are going to give instant feedback. And nowadays, people give feedback publicly right away. So Nike, they make our jerseys. The ones we put on our backs when we play. There is nothing, even like an authentic jersey that you can buy online, like the jersey we put on their back. You wouldn't sell them. Fans wouldn't even be comfortable in them. There's no such thing. They're not even remotely close. So whatever Fanatics makes for fans, whatever Nike, Adidas, Under Armour, they're not even remotely close to the players' jersey that we put on. They're like completely different things. They're night and day. So I am sure Fanatics will be in contact with tons of people to try to find a way to get the best product on these players' back so the players enjoy it. And it's a win-win for Fanatics, the NHL, and the players. Because at the end of the day, that's all about. Like their deal, yes, is publicly to have that Fanatics logo on the jersey. But also, if it's a bad product and the players hate it, the NHL will just say, we're out. So I don't think that's going to be the case. That's a whole – there's two separate issues. That's what I'm saying, Jack, compared to what the players are going to wear on their backs and what the fans are going to put on their backs. So it's a business, and I'm sure – cost-wise, it's less for them, and that's why jerseys are made that way.
All I will say is if we ever revisit this conversation, you are not allowed to make a rebuttal about how great they are until at least 2025. Because one part of it is they are still going to be using the Adidas. They basically came out and said it's the factory that makes the Adidas jerseys for the on ice. I know it's at least on ice. I don't know if it's the high quality retail versions. They are keeping the exact same factory as Adidas, just swapping out the logos. And then 2026 or whatever, they're changing everything over. So I don't want it. I get your point. I hope it's right, but you're not allowed to rebuttal and say you were right until 2026. Just a little.
We got breaking news, Jack. NFL play. Look at you on Twitter. NFL players can wear number 0 next season. What are your thoughts, Jackie? The big news is going to be all over. It's going to be big time. What do you got for me, Golick and Greeny? What do you got? Let's go to national radio for this one. This will be the talk all day tomorrow on radio.
Probably. And I'm not like I said, I'm not against changing the rule. I just don't like how 0 looks on football jerseys.
I used to wear 0 in hockey, by the way.
It doesn't. Basketball, I mean, basketball seems like the only sport where 0 can be pulled off well. Like these are probably the one great and the terrible comparison. Damian Lillard and Spencer Hawes, because they're the first people that come to my mind when I think of 0 and 000. 000 looks a little weird in basketball, but 0 is fine in my opinion. I just don't know how it's going to look on football jersey. I know college does it. I really haven't seen it in action. I think Oregon, I might have seen a 0. It just doesn't look right. It's weird, in my honest opinion. And maybe I'll grow to it. I mean, I'm not saying it's the worst thing to happen. It's really not that big a deal. I'm all for it. It's just, I don't know. Like, how do you feel if like your quarterback just tried out wearing number 0? It just doesn't fit right with me.
I could care less.
The only position I see it fit, I can see a wide receiver or a running back wearing 0. I can't see like a defensive end. And I'm trying to think what other numbers were single digits, tight ends, quarterbacks. I don't see any of them wearing 0. A wide receiver, running back are the only ones I can see a number 0 in.
Is 0 even a number?
Technically it is, because I was literally looking it up. It's a rational number. It is because it has like an integer to it.
0. Poof. We can't count it. I don't care what guys wear, honestly. I thought everyone made a bigger deal about the only issue I would say is is players don't wear like linebackers are allowed to wear like 5, and then the safeties are allowed to wear like a 50, like 45. Well, then Brady brought it up too, like who's the Mike, who's the Sam, like that's a issue. You got to fit. It's on a some players our safeties playing in linebacker numbers, and then sometimes a linebacker's wearing a safety number, so or a DB number. So you kind of got to know who the heck the guys are before you be able to know the numbers a little bit and be like, hey, this guy's so and so. So that's something to keep an eye. I thought that was something that's been interesting. I bet there's been a mistake or two a year, maybe a little bit more. Oh, there's been more on, hey, is that the corners, is the safety? Who am I blocking here? Especially the tight end position, how you're navigating things with the fullback, etc. So that's the only issue for me with the number changing. But whatever numbers you want, rock it, Jack. We're coming to you live here. Jack Cano, what do you think about the numbers? Bring it on down. Guys, Som Sleep, the best sleep in the world. Get up, rock, kick ass the next day. Promo code Colin. Remember, GEEK, promo code Colin Thompson for the tickets. It's ticket season now. Baseball games, concerts, the whole nine this summer's coming. You heard this ridiculous number of events coming up on the sports calendar. actionsoverwordsapparel.com. Check them out. Always donating a profit of their proceeds to the charity of their choice. Anything else, Jackie? We should send it over to the great Marc Farzetta, Archbishop Wood alum, Temple alum.
I don't know. I feel like we kind of covered everything. I feel like the jersey-related issues were kind of I'm curious for your Paul. Yesterday, it was announced that Dave Scott would be retiring at the end of the year as the governor of the Philadelphia Flyers, and the old boys club.
The governor.
Yes. And according to our
President?
friends at Crossing Broad, I think, no, they officially call him the governor. Is what
the gov. Okay, continue.
And according to our friends over at Crossing Broad, there are reports that Bobby Clark, I forget who the other two are. The other two members of the boys club will be allowed in the organization, but they are not going to be senior advisors moving forward. They're going to be more like a celebratory, like, thank you for your service role.
It is such a crying shame the Flyers are what they are. They're one of the worst teams in sports. Think about that. The Philadelphia Flyers, that brand, is one of the worst teams in sports. It hurts to say. I'm going to have to just not look. But I can't. We have group text built in. I'm going to play fantasy hockey. Like, what? It's a shame. The NHL playoffs are going to be, every year, the best. Every year, I think it's the best. Top 2, top 3 championships in all of sports. But man, there's no way they have to get Bedard. They have to. If they get him, there's hope. If not, they are done. They have to go 3-4 years of a tank. You just lost your franchise goaltender. He's gonna be 29 by then. It's over. So they have to get the first pick, maybe land one of these other studs that has to come in and play right away and be dominant, or they're done. They're done. So it's a shame. It's hard for me to talk about, Jack. I hate it, man. I absolutely hate it. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. What else? I'm going to finish up with one other thing, and it slipped my mind. Oh, God, whatever. Laid back, relax episode with Jack in the back today, as always. Jack, thanks for all you do. Again, Not For Long Media. Check out all our podcasts. I appreciate everybody at our team working their freaking asses off. All those social media clips, all the posting, all the sponsorship. Shout out to everyone at Gaul. Shout out to Mick, the Samboners, for a great event there. And appreciate everybody tuning in. Really do. It's been a great ride. It's been a great ride. We have a bunch of new episodes coming up soon. We have some big-time guests coming up in the future. So thanks, Jack. Thank you, team. I hope everybody is doing great. And we're going to send it over to Marc Farzetta. Thanks, Mark.
Then I spilled my espresso as I was coming down the steps. Then I went back to remake the espresso, spilled the beans I freshly ground into the actual dispenser. And I was like, the fuck? And I looked in the mirror to see if my face was drooping. It was the weirdest fucking chain of events, brother. Holy shnikes. Anyway, how are you?
I'm great. We are recording, but we are not live, so we're not really technically recording. We'll edit this out.
I don't care.
Okay, we'll keep it in then, because that's the fun in it. We'll catch up and just go live.
This is my piping hot fresh espresso.
Okay, so how many cups of coffee or how many cups of espresso per day for the great Marc Farzetta?
4. I'll generally have one before 4. Four espresso. Four espressi. I'll have one before my show, and then I'll have one with the kids. And when I say the kid, I don't mean like my 3-year-old is having an espresso. I mean she's having her orange juice, and I'm having the espresso. And then I'll usually have like one in the middle of the day, and then a little bit maybe later, right before I go pick the kids up from school and whatnot. So I stopped drinking coffee one particular Lent because I wanted to see if like it's just better for you to not drink. Like if I drink coffee, I drink coffee all day. If I have espresso, I'll have espresso, and then I'll have water, and then I'll have espresso maybe later. But if I'm drinking coffee, I'm drinking like 7 to 8 cups a day, and that's crazy.
What time do you get up for your show?
Like 4:30, yeah.
And then when do you go live?
6 o'clock.
And why is 6 o'clock the right window for you?
Because the vast majority of my career has been for a morning audience. So I figured the best time for me to hit is that morning show time. But in today's day and age, obviously, not only can you have it live at 6, but you could come back and watch the repeat at 7, 8, 9, download the podcast. You can have that whenever you want. But I figured it was best to just be out first thing in the morning and also in the audience that knows me the best.
Do you find as a father that makes life a little bit easier?
Yes and no. It makes it easier because I'm done the show. I'm done the content creation by the time the kids are up. You know, the kids are just getting up. My wife's up with them. It's great. But then I'm done the content creation portion, and then they go to school, and you know, then you just do what you got to do after that. But if I got to record something, if something breaks in the middle of the day, I can do that. That's great. The no part of it is that when the games are on, I'm up watching the games and I'm up late. And it's difficult when the kids are getting ready for bed and the games are just starting. Like the Sixers game, 7 o'clock tip-off is, and it happens all the time, 7 o'clock is the most common time for anything and for an East Coaster. And when the kids are getting ready for bed, I'm trying to concentrate on the way the Sixers are starting or the way the Flyers are starting. I'm trying to concentrate on Joel Embiid. I'm trying to concentrate on how Aaron Nola looks at that given time, you know? So that part sucks, but you know, it is what it is. I mean, I'm not the first person to do a show and have kids at the same time. Like that's not, so I'm far from complaining.
And you get to walk down your basement, or where's your studio?
It's in the basement. Yeah. It's in the basement. Yeah.
So there's a lot of unpack there. First off, Central Time is the greatest time in the world because my in-laws, it is fantastic. My in-laws live in Houston. When we go to Houston, 6 o'clock, the games start, and by 8:30, they're done. Oof. And it is fantastic. Like I just get up, we go to bed earlier there, we get up earlier there. Everything's just nicer. Obviously, we're an hour behind. It is pleasant. It is super pleasant. Now, in Baltimore, we live in Annapolis now. Okay. Baltimore, they're moving the games up to 6:30 to allow, I think, the sun to kind of be up when the games are over still for safety reasons. But I think it's brilliant. I think they should seriously think about the 6:30 slot, 6 o'clock start. People are done work at 5, kids. Boom. I think I personally think it'd be a great commitment. Now, sponsors may not think so, but I think more people will watch. I think it'd be something at least to mix in.
Well, first of all, I love Annapolis. Annapolis is such a great, I don't know if you know this, but my mom's family is from Baltimore. So like Annapolis was a popular spot to jump down to and hang with them classy people, as opposed to, you know, from where my family's from. But my mom's family at least. But I love Annapolis. And then second, as far as the time difference goes, when I worked for Sunday Night Football, I loved, especially as an East Coast guy, loved the West Coast games. Because you could catch a red eye out if you wanted to, if you had to be back early the next day, which I always had to be. But there was the rare occasion where we would have like a Saturday game, like in the playoffs, for instance, for Wild Card Weekend. We might have a Saturday game. We'd be done the game by 8:30. We'd be out partying in San Francisco. Back in the day, we'd be out in San Diego. We'd be hitting In-N-Out Burger. We'd be out like Seattle games. We'd be out after the game just having ourselves a great time. And I used to love those West Coast games on the schedule because I knew afterwards we were going to go out and have ourselves a time.
I know, man. They're a hell of a time, too, on a side note. That's a great
love San Diego.
I don't know if I could live in the rest of San Francisco. I get it. I mean, the rest of California, I get it. It's beautiful. If I played for a team, no problem. Sign me up. I'm free agent, folks. I love to play for them. But San Diego is just a beautiful place. So Marc Farzetta is joining the show. We were just chopping it up, having a good time. Everything we do here, guys, is brought to you by the Original Fudge Kitchen, shipping fudge and sweet treats across the country, fudgekitchens.com. All right. So Mark's joining us. Mark and I have a ton in common. Archbishop Wood graduates, Temple graduates, Philly media people, I guess you could say sports media people. But I want to go back to day one, little Mark. and you know what? It's fun for these because I do a lot of different shows, just like you do. But for me, it's more, I do a pre-show. We talk for 20 minutes about what's going on, and then I attach it to an interview. So this is the interview portion that will come out next week, last week in March. And a huge fan, you're a role model of mine. And that's weird. I'm in this territory now. It's like role model friend, like Harry Mays and Jason Martinez work for us and Not For Long Media, work with us. So it's like these guys like mentored me and brought me in a 97.5 The Fanatic. And now like I'm selling marketing for them. So it's very unique in that aspect. But I want to go back to young Mark.
Okay.
Where'd you grow up? Why Archbishop Wood?
Oof.
And your time there are proud. We're proud alums.
Now, where did you go to grade school?
I am from Doylestown. So
right.
I went to a public grade school.
Oh, you went
middle school. And then because I played CYO Romans, Mount Carmel, Our Lady of Mount Carmel football, I worked out on a Roman shirt today too. My friends are all like, we're going to this place called Archbishop Wood. I'm like, dude, I want to go play basketball at CB East. Why would I go there? And the Wood coaches were like, you should just come play here and check it out. And they just gave me a little bit of love, not a lot. Everyone like makes this whole thing that Wood recruited at the time, and no. And I was like, well, let me reach out to the CB East football coach and see what he has to say. So I reached out to him. I went down to the athletic director's office, Mr. Rittenhouse, 8th grade, Hollycong Middle School.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And I shot him an email, and he got back to me the next day, and I still have it printed out, and it's in one of these boxes here. It used to be up on my wall, but I just asked, hey, can I come see the facility? Can I come walk through and see practice with the team? Like all questions that we weren't really ready to ask, but my friends were all asking of LaSalle and prep. And I was like, I guess I got to do this. Like I'm pretty good at football at the time. I thought I was a basketball guy. And I sent him an email, and he got back to me like, no player's bigger than the team. If you want to come here, come, but I'm not going to recruit you. I'm like, what? I didn't even ask to get recruited. I just want to come watch practice. So I was like, all right, here we go. I'm going to Wood. So it happened overnight, and
wow.
It was the best decision I ever made. So in a long story short, I'm from Doylestown. I went to Cold Spring Elementary, Hollycong Middle School, and played for the CYO Mount Carmel Romans.
Okay. Well, that's the reason I ask, because I went to Mount Carmel. I did 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade at Mount Carmel, which is the longest I ever spent in a school. So to answer your question, 4 years. To answer your question, I was born in Ambler, Pennsylvania, which for those that don't know is about 45 minutes north of Philadelphia. I grew up for the most part in Doylestown as well. Went to Our Lady of Mount Carmel, went to Archbishop Wood, went to Temple. But my dad was in pharmaceuticals, marketing and sales and all that stuff. So we moved around quite a bit. We were in Rochester, New York for preschool and both my years of kindergarten. And then we moved.
I wish I did that. I would have been a pterodactyl as a senior. Like the whole entire Archidiacono family, cats out of the bag there. They're all a year. They're all a little older.
What? Oh my goodness, great. Well, I did not have that athletic ability, so they should have held me back maybe 10 years. But yeah, so I did all that, and then we lived in Rochester, New York. We moved to Baltimore. We lived in like a place called Dundalk, Baltimore area for a year. Then we lived just outside Baltimore. We lived like an hour away from Baltimore, but still in Pennsylvania. We lived in a place called New Freedom, which is literally right there on the Mason-Dixon line. We were there for 3 years, and then we moved to Doylestown. And I pretty much grew up there. And I lived in Philly proper for most of my adult life up until about 2 months ago. And we made the move to the suburbs, the wife and I, and our 2 kids. I have a daughter, Emanuela, who's 3, and then Leonardo, my son, who's 1. So we just made the move, my friend. We just made the move.
Look at you, man. Just growing up and getting old. So you go from Wood, why Temple?
Everyone in Philly media went to Temple, and I was like, I guess that's where I'll go because that's what I want to do. And I remember I went to the Ambler campus for 2 years. Again, originally from Ambler, I wanted to kind of have that reconnection with, my father's hometown, my hometown that I barely got to know. When my father's family came to America, which was only my grandparents were very young in our American years in my family. I wanted to like really experience the town. When they came over from Italy, they put roots down in Ambler. So I wanted to experience some of that. So I went to Temple Ambler, and they also had like no holds barred when it came to the radio station. It was 100% student run. There was like one faculty overseer, and they stopped by every once in a while. And then there was a dean down the hall from us that was just very supportive of everything the students wanted to do. So I went to Temple Ambler for 2 years. I worked at 1610 WRFT, Temple Ambler's only radio station, and I did that for. Yeah. I actually did radio at that station for all 4 years. I did a sports show with my buddy Mike Lanza, who was in the radio business for a time with Wire 96.5 in Philly. And I did all that, and I loved it, and I just knew the opportunities would be there afterwards as well. And I knew they were on the cutting edge of a lot of great things in terms of online radio, in terms of the physical radio station itself. And I just knew that if I went to Temple, I would have great connections in the city, and that all turned out to be true. And I graduated with good grades, not great grades by any means, but I just had a willingness to work hard, and my teachers liked me, and I did well in my major, which was broadcasting, telecommunications, and mass media at Temple. And then just started in the radio business the week after I graduated. I want to say, I think it was a week after is when it started. Yeah.
You said that I knew I wanted to get into radio. I wanted to get into media broadcasting. When did you know that? What age, and what drew you to, this crazy world?
I remember listening to when we just moved back to Doylestown, or back to the Philly area, I should say. We were coming back from Baltimore, and the Baltimore fans, at least what I was exposed to at the time, this is pre-Ravens, okay? The Orioles were not a good baseball team, but Baltimore loved their baseball team, right? They loved their new ballpark. They loved their baseball team. The Baltimore fan at the time that I was exposed to was more, I compare fan bases to parents, like nurturing mothers and strict fathers. Philly is a strict father. I identify with a strict father, okay? Not that my father was overly strict or anything, but I can identify to that more than to the overbearing, nurturing mother that's like, oh, you lost? Here's a juice box and an orange peel. We'll get them tomorrow. My mom wasn't like that, but that for me was not what I could identify with. The more strict parent I could identify with, and I fell in love with that attitude of Philadelphia. And I remember listening to the radio before, I remember it was after Mass at Our Lady of Mount Carmel. And we were on our way to, this is such a Doylestown thing. We were on our way to Perkins after church. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Right in the Kmart shopping center.
Exactly. Exactly. And we were on our way to Perkins. I remember we were listening to the pregame show, and I just remember hearing the crowd before an Eagles-Cowboys game, and the crowd chanting, Dallas sucks, Dallas sucks. Anyone that rooted for Dallas, they suck. Everybody sucks. It's great. And I just remember thinking, I need to be in the middle of that. Like, I want to, that is where I need to be. I swear I was about 11 years old, 10 years old, 11 years old at the time. And I thought that's where I need to be. So I remember thinking that. And then literally 11 years later, I was in the middle of it at the tailgate, at the tent show, at the pregame show, in the middle of all the craziness, helping the radio station put on the pregame show at the time. And I just remember like looking around and be like, this is exactly how I imagined it when I was 11 years old.
Do you do it all the right way the entire time? Like, I always tell myself, like, I'm going to write the book of how to make it and do it all wrong.
Oh,
like that would be the title of if I ever had to write a book about myself.
Right.
I mean, I've made a lot of great decisions in my life. Don't get me wrong, but some of them weren't so great, and it worked out okay. It's a kind of a loaded question, but why do you think you found yourself in the middle of it all 11 years later? Because I've had the same moments. Like we're playing the Minnesota Vikings. It's 2020. I haven't found any footing in this league. I'm in the AAF, I'm in the XFL, and I look down on my feet and I look up, and it's second and, or what was it? I was in 3 straight plays. It was 3 straight run plays. We're trying to run the clock out, kick a field goal, and win. We ended up losing in Minnesota. Crazy. And I played 3 straight plays. And in that moment of time, I was one of 32 tight ends in the league playing on the football field. The only tight end on the field for us. I was like, oh my God, it like hit me like a ton of bricks. So, that was my moment. 11 years later, I'm on the Romans football field and I'm like, I want to play in the NFL, Mom. And then here I am in Minnesota, the same thing. But my question to you is, why do you think that happened? How did it happen?
Well, I think it's obvious, Colin. I'm awesome, and you're awesome too. Unless
Bing.
other people were. No, I just was willing to work. I mean, that's the thing that a lot of people overlook. It's like, I hate it's cliche, but you see the motivational posters with like, just the tip of the iceberg and then what's underneath it. And it's like, up here is success. And then down here is the work. The work always comes before the success. I mean, sometimes you might trip into something with dumb luck, but even then you got to work to keep whatever you got. So for me, I just was willing to work. I mean, in my family, we always talk about, you might meet people that are better than you at certain things, but you can never meet anyone that is willing to work harder than you. Like, that's got to be the way it's got to go. And that's kind of how I've lived my life, whether that be on the professional side or the personal side of things. And if you ask me the question, why was I able to go into radio, go into TV, and then do what I'm doing now, it's because I was willing to work. That's the number one thing. And then after that, you have to have talent for people to notice you and say, okay, not only is he willing to work, but he's also got some talent. So let's see what he's got. So I think the number one reason isn't really as much as the decisions, because we all make bad decisions. We all make mistakes. But it's a matter of how you're going to roll with those mistakes, how you're going to roll with those punches. And if you're willing to outwork anybody, you can go really far. I mean, they always talk about how 90% of success is just showing up. The 10% might be talent after that. But for me, I just knew I was going to show up every day. I was going to work my ass off. I wasn't going to care about money. I would work other jobs if I had to work. I was a basketball referee. I was a landscaper. I worked a bunch of other jobs away from the radio, because at the time in radio, you're only getting paid for like maybe $50 to work an event where you go to a bar to hand out t-shirts, and maybe you're lucky to get an event like that a week. And then if you make your way up to like a producer, maybe you'll get paid. Back in my day, it was like $8 an hour, and it was for 4 hours of work, and that's what you were going to get a day, and that's before taxes. And they expect you to base your whole life around those 4 hours. So I was willing to take the hits, work wherever else I could in order to make ends meet. And that's what I did. A lot of people aren't willing to do that. A lot of people aren't willing. I mean, it's not just about working hard. It's also about the sacrifice. You got to be willing to make the sacrifice as well. And then pay attention to not only your mistakes, but I paid attention to other people's mistakes at the same time. So I thought if I did that, I'd learn twice as fast, because it wasn't just about me messing up. It was about watching somebody else mess up and go, okay, I won't do that either. Like, I remember one guy showed up late one day, and I just remember he got eviscerated. Like, he got destroyed by the bosses. And I remember thinking, all right, 2 minutes late is still really late. So never be late. Stuff like that. So I think work hard. The whole dedication thing is a big deal. And then making sure you're learning from your mistakes and other people's as well, as I think is why I'm able to now independently do a podcast, do a web show, do what I do for the Jacob Media Network as well, and still be able to have a foot in the door of the great business that is sports broadcasting.
Do you miss doing radio, or you enjoy this kind of freedom of being by yourself?
This is the great. I feel like, Colin, I literally feel like you're doing this, I'm doing this. I feel like we have the first tickets to the greatest rock show ever. Like, I think we have the greatest, whatever, the greatest movie ever. I feel like we got the first pair of tickets to it, because a lot of people that I know are still in that business, and that's a great business, and there's nothing against that business. But if you're telling me I can support my family by saying my opinions into the air in my home, yeah, you're not beating that gig. This is the greatest gig. This is the best gig. And at the same time, you're your own boss, and people come to you to offer you more thing. This is phenomenal. Like, one of the things I didn't like about the linear media, whether that be TV or radio, was like you're owned essentially. Like your talent is owned. You're a part of this one group. in this business, being independent, you could do whatever the hell you damn well please. And that's what I love about this. I have the attention span of a gnat, which is probably why I went to kindergarten twice. So doing something
Probably why
like
you're
this,
successful too.
yeah, right. I can't focus on one thing. You should literally see the house we just bought. One room's half painted. Another room, like one wall is painted. It's ridiculous. But anyway, but for me, I just love.
Though.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Still standing. Yeah. But for me, it's all about just being able to enjoy it and having fun. And I did the radio thing. I had a great time in radio. I had my fill. Realized I couldn't go any further at one radio station. Got a job in TV. Pursued that. Got a job at another radio station. That didn't end the way I would have liked for it to have ended. But then this world that we're in right now is incredible. Like I grew up in a world where there was 2 stations or maybe 3 outlets, including print, that you could be in the sports media. Now it's you start your own website, you start your own show, you start your own podcast. And guess what you're doing? You're a talk show host. You're hiring yourself essentially, and you're doing things to really help you in your career. So for me, I love this format.
It's great. Relationship building too, because you have to establish relationships, reestablish relationships, because you're your own boss, right? The marketing side of it,
right?
It's a blast. It's fun. It leads to some challenges, at least some things you probably don't really want to do, at least in my opinion. The back office stuff, I just want to rip it and roar.
Right.
Is radio dead? I think so. You know, I just, for me, everybody gets in your car, and back in the day, I would rush to put on whatever Mikey missed, to put on what, you know, it was funny. I was listening to Harry and Jason on OG's the other day, our show had Not For Long, and they were talking about the Marcus Mariota situation and how their former boss would, hold a gun to their head. And I remember those days of like, man, this is just so redundant. But it was the only thing to listen to at the time. There's some podcast, like, and I want to hear sports. It was like,
right,
could you do the deal? Marcus Mariota, like that.
I remember.
Yeah, it's chaos. So, you know, it's funny for me. I don't know. I just don't pop on my car, and I have no desire to listen to sports talk radio. Personally, I have no desire to listen to radio music because I can pick what I want in my car. Or if I don't like something, I can pick something new and try something different. And Spotify, and I mean, there's so many other things pulling things away from radio. So I think if it's not dead, it's on its way to dying.
I think how we know it is dying. Like, I honestly think radio, and I don't know how they do this, and I got nothing bad to say about anybody in radio and all that stuff. Like, I know ill will, love everybody and all that stuff, but I think there has to be a change. Like, it was all AM sports talk radio for a long time. Now some cars don't even have AM anymore in the car. Like, you can't even get the AM band. FM was a great transition for radio. Now I think radio needs to take a page out of the podcast book, and you have to have shorter stop sets. You have to be more on demand, which they have done. Now you can listen to a downloaded podcast version of the radio, which has been that way for years. But I think radio has to make a change in their stop sets, how they present the commercials, how they present sponsors. And I think they need to take a page out of a podcast and how they do it so that they can continue to have a long TSL, because the time spent listening, for those that don't know the radio jargon, for the TSL, that's all a podcast is. I mean, time spent listening is a radio salesman or program director's fantasy, to have a podcast audience hold the way a podcast audience holds. So for me, I think if radio shifts to that, they'll draw in more audience. They'll keep the people they have now, and they'll draw in more if they go to more to that format. Some stations do it for, you know, the power hour or whatever it might be, you know. But if you do more of that throughout a station with sprinkled in commercials, not like a 8-minute stop set, then I think radio will be just fine and dandy. But then it also does go with more particular things, like WIP, for instance, is just ingrained in Philadelphia. Like that, it would be really hard for WIP to just go away. Somebody will find a way to make money off those call letters, that talent at the station. And also, by the way, having the broadcast rights to the Eagles, having the broadcast rights to the Phillies. Those are things that make it unstoppable, an unstoppable powerhouse, more or less. So that for me will help keep that business alive.
It's an interesting business. Yeah, I love the radio play-by-play. That's the one thing that holds on to me is I love listening to baseball on the radio. I've done football play-by-play before, and that's an absolute blast too. So I do really enjoy that.
Mhm.
All right, let's have some fun. Let's talk some Philly sports. And we don't really talk a lot of Philly sports on this show because my show, because it's just not me.
I understand.
I listen, you could turn into Mark's show. I hope you listen. If you're a Philly sports fan, you know you're not listening to this for Philly sports. We have just a broad base from the teams I played for, traveling. Yeah, of course, there's Philly people, Kate May, there's a lot of that. But you get that already. Listening to Mike Gill and listening to Marc Farzetta and listening to all these guys all over, whether you're down at AC or you're in Philly. So we talk a little bit about everything. I sounded off last week on our show. Well, this week, but last week while you're listening to this, people were freaking out about Philly losing all these people. And I want you to get me right here or wrong because the Eagles are losing all these free agents. Every team loses free agents every single year. And especially how the roster is built for a lot of one and dones. And also because of last year, because of where the cap were, a lot of players were signing prove-it deals. The entire league was signing prove-it deals. We didn't know where the cap was going to go. Well, now the cap's going up, and this is the opportunity for players to cash in. You see some players like local Reading kid Alex Anzalone, who signed a 1-year deal with Detroit from New Orleans, following Dan Campbell from New Orleans. He signed a 3-year deal. You see some people signing another 1-year prove-it deal, like a Gardner Johnson, because the number wasn't what they wanted it to be. But my point is, there's now a lot of money on the table that was not there last year. I think people don't understand that. And players, contrary to popular belief, have to put the money away because the league is a short-lived place and you have to make your money while you can. So I just think it's very frustrating to me as a player, media, whatever. I'm watching, I'm saying, hey, calm down. I thought you were telling me everyone trusts Howie Roseman. I think you should. You have multiple draft picks because of it. You trade for one of the best receivers in the NFL last year at the beginning of the draft. So the opportunities are endless. You know he's going to make a move. You know they're going to draft well. So I don't understand the freak out. Correct me if I'm wrong, but to me, I thought it was an overreaction by Philly fans and Philly sports media because, they're losing X amount of starters and they lost their top 5 tacklers. I said it on my show. There's 90 players in the room to start training camp. You turn around, 45 of them weren't there last year. Every single roster is that way, whether it's the top players or the bottom players. There's 45 new faces. I just think a little bit overreaction by Philly media and fans.
I don't know what it is. I think the NFL, because the NFL is what pays the bills for a lot of either radio stations, podcasts, whatever it might be. Yeah, players, I think people tend to overreact. They have knee-jerk reactions in the NFL, I think, more so than they have in any other sport. And I don't know exactly why the reason is. Maybe because there is such a definitive time that there's tampering, then they're signing, and then guys are shopping and testing the market, and then you have another slew of signings and all that stuff. I don't know why it is, but the NFL really captures the imagination of a lot of people and the attention of a lot of people when it comes to the free agency. As far as Howie Roseman goes, though, as a general manager, the thing is you have to be patient. The Eagles can all of a sudden not have Javon Hargrave, for instance, and he goes to San Francisco. You can't lose your mind that all of a sudden now the Eagles aren't going to have any defensive linemen. Next thing you know, they re-sign Fletcher Cox to another year for $10 million. Next thing you know, they go and get 2 linebackers, or they get a linebacker when you have TJ Edwards going elsewhere. It's a difficult thing to try to keep track of, but you can't just jump in and say, the Eagles suck now because they let these guys go. No, you have to allow the opportunity for the Eagles to make other signings, which they have. James Bradbury might not be back. Well, now he's back. Darius Slay might not be back. Now he's back. Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, all right, fine, see you later. Fletcher Cox, who I already mentioned, Jason Kelsey, Brandon Graham, all these guys are still here in Philadelphia. You can't jump to conclusions after one day of free agency, and I know a lot of people still do that. You can't jump to conclusions after day 2 either. You still have the draft in front of you, and then after that, you know what else you have? You still have other free agents you could bring in. You have other trades you can make. Yeah, there's a lot to go. I mean, Howie Roseman got A.J. Brown on draft day with one of their first-round picks. And he also got Jordan Davis.
Exactly, and there's people saying, I saw somebody on my Twitter feed pop up. They're not a playoff team right now. What?
Come
Who
on,
is?
man. Who is
And I'm
a
not an
playoff
Eagles
team?
fan. I'm not an Eagles fan. I'm just a realist. Like,
Right.
I was like, oh, you're from Philly. No. Yeah, I am, of course. But I'm not. My mom's best friend from high school, Tim Lewis, who's from Penn Ridge, and Will Lewis and Lewis Reddick, they were all my mom's great friends. I followed them. We went to games. I was in locker rooms. I met Jerome Bettis and Cordell Stewart in Pittsburgh. Like, I went to see the Giant Super Bowl parade. Like, that's what I was exposed to. Of course, we're
Right.
Eagles supporters. My mom's in retail in the area. So when the Eagles win, everyone's happy. They go spend money. So my point is, we're Eagle supporters, and my uncles and aunts and friends and cousins are diehards, right? But like, I think I give a pretty unbiased opinion about the team, and I think they're one of the best teams in the NFL. I thought the NFC Championship game between them and the Niners and them, that's the two best teams. I think you can argue they're still better than Kansas City team. Now, Kansas City's loaded, of course. Yeah. But and it's no disrespect to them and their GM. They've
crushed it. Yeah.
They crushed it. But I don't know, man. I was like, what the heck? And listen, it pays bills. I get it. You got to be reactionary, but I was, whoa.
Here's the thing. This is amazing. And Colin, you experienced this as well. Howie Roseman took the Chip Kelly Eagles, all right, after he lit a match to Philadelphia generational talents like LaShawn McCoy and Deshaun Jackson, all right, after he moved on from those guys abruptly. Oh, and Nick Foles for Sam Bradford. He lit a match to the franchise. Howie Roseman was told, go hang out in the janitor's closet, as the old joke goes, comes back, gets the job again, to have final say over the front office, over football decisions. 2 years later, they're in a Super Bowl. Okay? 5 years after that, with a new head coach and new starting quarterback, they're back in the Super Bowl. And it looks like you're going to have a perennial MVP candidate at quarterback in Jalen Hurts. For anyone that wants to say the Eagles aren't a playoff team, the NFL is all about quarterback play. All right? It's all about quarterback play. Jalen Hurts is the type of quarterback that makes you think you have a chance to win, no matter what. If you're in the fourth quarter, you're down 2 touchdowns. Well, Jalen Hurts is a quarterback. You still have a chance. That's what it really comes down to. It's a team game. It's the ultimate team game. We all know that. But the biggest push come to shove moment is how your quarterback is going to play. Jalen Hurts is incredible to me. And yes, he is going to be a guy that hopefully won't have to be the strongest deodorant in the world if you do have a bad offseason and you aren't ready to go into the regular season and you're not ready to win football games. I think he could be a pretty strong deodorant, but hopefully he only has to be regular strength and not like maximum strength deodorant. All right.
48-hour
coverage with Degree,
which never works. I mean, shout out to Degree, but come on. What? 48 hours.
It works for me, Colin, because I don't work out. It might not work for you because you work out.
No, it's interesting. The Jalen Hurts stuff. Another thing that upset me too, again, because I follow all this Philly media. Those are my friends. Right. I follow players on the team. I play with Hassan Reddick. I play with Sean Bradley. So people really thought that Jalen Hurts wasn't going to be a franchise quarterback, which I thought was comical, especially last offseason.
Yeah.
Like, you think that guy doesn't work hard? Trust me, I play with a lot of players in the NFL that do not work really hard. They may work hard, maybe certain times a year, and there's nothing wrong with that. Guys make a living, they're healthier. Everyone has their process. I'm not coming at any player,
right?
But that player, you don't squat 600-700 pounds. It's like that doesn't just happen overnight. So you don't think he's going to work on his deep ball. You don't think that guy's going to improve. I think people forget that too from a fan's perspective. Is these guys are working. Like, look at Lane Johnson, Hall of Famer. I'm talking about work. Chip Kelly drafted him, which is crazy.
Right.
That was a long time ago. And that's what I mean by that. Like, that guy, and you say quarterback, but I think the Eagles really have invested in the right two positions, offense and defensive line, period. I mean,
sure.
And they have changed the NFL with the way they draft offensive linemen. I mean, Pryor's a starter. They got guys, who's in Detroit? I liked him too, the O-lineman who left the Eagles. I forget.
Oh, Isaac Seumalo.
Yeah, he's a good player.
Yeah.
No, Seumalo. No, Vaitai.
Oh, he went to Pittsburgh. Sorry, Halapoulivaati Vaitai. Yeah.
That's a good player. I mean, there's like a lot of guys. So
Super Bowl. He started at left tackle for the Eagles in the Super Bowl because Peters was out.
Yeah, and then Jason Peters was like still playing. They had a Cowboys offensive lineman on the Sam Boner show, and he just raved about Peters as a human and just a legend. I digress. We don't talk a lot of basketball on my show.
Ooh,
I'm not an NBA fan.
I'm
not an NBA fan. I just think it's a bore fest. The guys are too good, and you can't foul. You can't be physical. You can't. You can't do the playoffs. It's like, again, I'm not saying they should beat the hell out of each other. It's basketball. And I'm not saying it should be like Dennis Rodman, like killing somebody when they go to the rim. I think that's a little extreme.
Yeah.
But I think you can't play defense. You're going to get it. You're going to get a foul call against you. You're going to go to the line. It's a slow game. It's a lot of one-on-one. They're playing music. Like, why a guy's like crossing the guy up at the top of the key and he shoots a fadeaway jumper and it just goes in, right?
Yeah.
65% of the time now. They're so gifted. Like, you watch college basketball and these kids are running around like nut jobs. They're fouling. It's physical. There's altercations, there's arguments. That attracts me. That's
okay.
Whatever it is. It's nothing to do with the NBA, but professional basketball turns me off.
Okay.
I changed the subject now to, can the Sixers win the title?
They can. I feel the best I've felt in a while about the Sixers, first off, making it out of the second round of the playoffs. Now, let's just talk about this for a second. Let's marinate on this for a second. So the Sixers lose in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference semifinal, so the second round of the playoffs, to the Boston Celtics with Andre Iguodala, Andre Miller, Drew Holiday. Okay,
The heyday, baby.
The heyday. Then a year later, they start the process. The process happens. You go through 3 god-awful years, 1 really bad year, and then you have Joel Embiid playing, you have Ben Simmons, it starts to have the ups. You have Jimmy Butler here. But still, the Sixers can't make it out of the second round of the playoffs. They haven't been out of the second round of the playoffs since Allen Iverson was playing for them, and then they went up against the Lakers and lost in the finals. So it's been a long time and a long, arduous road from the beginning of the process. Shout out to Matt Croce. It's been a long road. I think this is the year, especially if the Sixers are able to get the second playoff seed, where they could get out of the second round of the playoffs. Also, James Harden is having one of his best years of his career right now in Philadelphia, leading the league in assists. Joel Embiid's leading the league in points per game. So those 2 stars are getting it done in the manner in which they need to get it done for this team to go to the next level. Now let's go beyond that. A guy like Tyrese Maxey has stepped up well this year. He's been streaky, but right now he's on the upswing. So right now, hopefully he keeps it at that level. Tobias Harris has been a good, decent 3-and-D guy. I wish he'd be a little bit more 3D and go to the lane guy. He has that capability, but he's a good enough player to have there. PJ Tucker we haven't seen playoff PJ Tucker yet. That's when I think you'll really start to see him as close to the contract that the Sixers signed him to, that 3-year deal. Again, all guaranteed money for PJ Tucker. And I think playoff PJ Tucker will be a great asset to the team. Now, off the bench, a guy like DeAnthony Melton can get hot from 3 like he did the other night against the Bulls. Hopefully he does it again against the Bulls, because the time we tape this, we're in between a home-and-home series with the Sixers and the Bulls. But the Sixers had the toughest schedule in the second half of the season, I should say post-All-Star break. The Sixers had the toughest schedule, 26 games left after the All-Star game, toughest schedule in the NBA. The Sixers are, at the time we tape this, 10-4 in that stretch. They have been playing great basketball. Joel Embiid has played. I've never seen Joel Embiid get as good towards the end of a year as he has gotten. If they continue to do that, they will absolutely make it out of the second round of the playoffs. So get the number 2 seed, continue this high play, and then they only get the number 2 seed if they continue to play the way they've been playing. And they make it out of the second round if they're able to do all that.
Before we wrap things up, I want to move to the rest of the teams here. We've talked Eagles. We've talked Sixers. I want to bring up Temple basketball. Temple Hoops fans, sad what happened to Aaron McKee, because we all wanted it to work, right? There's no secret. Sixer, Temple legend. It's a great story. They beat Houston this year, number 1 team in the country. You're like praying they sneak in. I didn't watch a ton of the games, I'll be honest with you, but things went wrong.
Yeah.
My opinion, there's one person you call.
Can I have a guess?
You can have a guess. There's one person that's perfect for the job.
Is it Dawn Staley?
Ding. It's Dawn Staley. If I'm the AD at Temple, Mrs. Staley, you're from North Philly. You went to Dobbins. You had an amazing WNBA career, an Olympic career. You coached at Temple. You've won national championships. Big paydays. Can't pay you that much here, but big paydays. Great times, great memories. Come be the first woman to be a men's basketball coach at the Division I level? What say you, Marc Farzetta?
I am 1,000 billion% for it. I don't know if it'll happen. I don't know if Temple makes that call. I don't know if Dawn Staley would be interested in that job before she might, I don't know, jump from college to the pros maybe. I think what took a hit for that idea of a woman coaching in the NBA was Becky Hammon going to the WNBA on that huge contract. That's a great opportunity. That's a great thing for her, and I'm very happy for her. I was slightly disappointed because I thought she would be the first female head coach in the NBA. Maybe it does need to happen at the NCAA level first before it happens in the pros. But I can think of nobody better to take on Temple's program than Dawn Staley. I think of nobody from a woman's perspective that would do better in that role than Dawn Staley. I have seen a story out there about the Temple being interested in Sixers assistant coach Sam Cassell. I think Sam Cassell has his heart set on being an NBA head coach, so I don't know if he's going to take a job at the college level. And I think it might be a little far-fetched because he is so close. Plus, if he even did get the job at Temple, Sam Cassell, I think the NBA is going to be on the phone with him in a year or two anyway. So I don't think that would be a lot of staying power with Sam Cassell. But as far as Dawn Staley goes, I'm all for it. I think she's ready for it. Not only do I think she's ready for it, I think that college basketball would look at her as the perfect person to fit in to that spot, and I think she would have success there.
I couldn't agree more. I think it'd be perfect for North Broad Street. It'd be perfect for Temple. I think she galvanizes people. I think she's a tremendous leader. And really, to me, it's like, okay, great. Just separate male, female. Just separate it. Who's had a ton of success? Who loves Temple? That's it. It has nothing to do with, she's a basketball coach or he's, to me, who could Temple hire? That may be an attractive situation for her, or maybe an assistant coach or a lower level coach, and you pray that you can land one of them. I would have grabbed one of the really good coaches out of the March Madness situation. The guy at, who went on to Iona now that Rick Pitino left. What's his name?
I can't remember, but yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
But, from up in New York there. God, forget. Okay, moving on. We're not going to talk about the Flyers. Next. No, I'm kidding. For me, Flyers, if you want to touch on it, they're a mess. There's no direction. I think Danny Briere is the guy to hire. I know it's like, I'll get rid of the old regime. I don't think he's a part of the old regime. The old regime is the guys that won Stanley Cups back in the 70s.
Right.
He's not a part of that. This is a guy that went back to school. I learned this all from Jason Martinez when he was talking about it on G's. This is a guy who went back to Penn Business School to learn more when he doesn't have to. He's already got plenty of hockey knowledge. He went down to lower levels, was GM, ran buildings. I think he's perfect for the youth movement. He was a goal scorer himself. He seems like an aggressive, kind of fun young guy. So it's tough. What do? Do you tank? Well, they didn't tank this year, even though they're looking like they're going to get a top 5 pick, which is great. Get into Bedard sweepstakes. But what say you about the Flyers, man? It's a bummer. It's really probably the most pure cultish fan base in Philly.
It absolutely is, without question. And the thing with me and Danny Briere, I love that he has the job right now as the interim. I think it's the obvious thing to say that they will remove at some point that interim tag, probably shortly after the season, and they'll have him to help guide them the rest of the way and hopefully start this rebuild. I know no one wants to hear about a rebuild. I know everyone wants to use the term retool. How about this term? Blow it up. Blow it the hell up. Please and thank you. I'm glad John Tortorella is here as your head coach. I don't know how much longer he'll be here if it is a total blow up and rebuild and all that stuff. But one thing that I like about John Tortorella is that I know, and Danny Briere, because knowing him as a player, the thing I miss the most about Ed Snyder is that I knew there was somebody in the upper echelon of the team that gave a damn as much as I did as a fan. And I grew up a huge Flyers fan. This Flyers team is the most unrecognizable Flyers team from the Flyers history in my lifetime that I've ever seen. There's been worse teams, but we're talking about a captainless Flyers team. You can tell me about Sean Couturier's injury all you want. If he was healthy, he'd be the captain. Fine. They're a captainless team. Their television network that airs the games in Philly didn't even hire a hockey studio host until like 20 games into the season. So, that, by the way, who owns the TV? It also owns the Flyers. So what the hell does that tell you? For me, everything is wrong with this team. There are certain glimmers of hope with some guys that are thought of as young guys that aren't that young anymore. Carter Hart still shows a lot of promise. This Flyers team is right now, and it pains me to say it, they're a rudderless ship. You're not bad enough to get one of the top players. You're not good enough to really compete for a Stanley Cup. So that just tells me it's time to tear it down, because this has been a really, really tough run for me as a Flyers fan. I was at the Stanley Cup Finals in 2010. I was at the game that Patrick Kane had the phantom goal, and I love that I always get clicks from people in Chicago whenever I mention it. Did that goal even go in? That thing? It went in. I understand. But it's such a heartbreaking thing to think about 2010 as the last glimmer of hope for this Flyers team, and where we are right now. It seems like they just don't have a direction. I think Danny Briere, though, is the guy to give this team that direction and at least give us an idea that I won't say glory days of the 70s, but at least the very competitive days of the 80s and the late 90s and the mid to late 90s and in the early 2000s. They'll at least give us that chip of competitiveness that we have missed so much with this Flyers team, where any year could be the year for the Flyers to finally win it again.
It's really good stuff. You've just absolutely killed the breakdown there. I completely agree. I think the one thing, I'm a huge hockey's my escape, so I listen to like Spittin' Chicklets and Missing Curfew and all these different hockey podcasts. That's like my escape from football. And the one thing they talk about is culture is not the same about Ed Snyder, and that's what bothers me. Is former players, they don't feel as comfortable. Current players aren't as comfortable. This is what the shows and different people say from me just listening over the years. So
yeah,
that's what bugs me out and concerns me with what's going on there. Okay, wrap up the Phillies. I mean, come on. Amazing year last year. Okay, regular season, amazing playoff run. What a treat, what a treat that was. And then last night, the World Baseball Classic. I mean, the Phillies were the story the whole time. And you're missing arguably the best player in the world, and Bryce Harper, probably the best player in the world. So what are your thoughts on the Phillies, man? I'm really excited for this season.
Absolutely love the Phillies. You talk about their 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5 punch later in the season when you just talk about their rotation. Love Taijuan Walker being signed to be your third or fourth starter in this rotation behind Ranger Suarez, maybe just in front, but behind Aaron Nola and behind Zach Wheeler. Your rotation is pretty much set. We'll see who gets that fifth starter job. Probably Bailey Falter at this point, but I hope Andrew Painter on the mend is able to pitch for the Phillies this year. Dave Dombrowski said as much a couple days ago. So we'll see what happens there. Then the lineup is the star of the show. To get the news recently that Bryce Harper will most likely be back in May and not the All-Star break that we thought originally is incredible. So now, if I'm drawing up the lineup, Trey Turner, who I have to call Captain America now for his World Baseball Classic performance. You have Trey Turner leading things off, Kyle Schwarber, then in May, probably Bryce Harper batting third for you, JT Realmuto, Reese Hoskins, whoever, and hopefully Nick Castellanos, maybe Alec Boehm, who's hitting bombs in spring training now. Maybe he's rounding out the top four of your order there, but this lineup is gonna rake. Kyle Schwarber, with his 40-plus home runs last year, imagine him doing that out of the 2-hole with a runner already on first base, and a runner on first base named Trey Turner who can steal second with great regularity, with a guy who's got great speed that can go first to third, that can score if you put it, can score from first base if you put it into the gap for a double. This is an incredible thing the Phillies have going for them in their lineup. And I know it's baseball, and you always talk about on paper. In every single sport with a great offseason, you can talk about what it looks like on paper. Well, how about this? On paper, these guys were looking pretty damn good last year, and they made it into the World Series. And they didn't have Bryce Harper for, 3 months last year?
The finish.
Then they got it back. The finish. And then they actually had him carry them into the playoffs and then carry them in the postseason as well. This lineup is dangerous. This pitching staff is dangerous. This bullpen's always a crapshoot. I've seen the Phillies load up on bullpen guys before, and everybody sucks. But this time around, it could come to fruition. Last year, towards the end of the year, it certainly came to fruition. So I have high hopes, no pun intended, for this Phillies team to go deep into the playoffs again, possibly even making another and winning a World Series for the organization.
That stadium in the playoffs, there's no place like it on the planet.
4 hours of hell. 4 hours of hell, according to some unnamed opposing manager. That now with the pitch clock, it's probably only like 2.5, 3 hours of hell. But hell nonetheless.
It's great stuff. Marc Farzetta, guys, check out his show. He'll have no coffee for you, but he's going to have plenty of juice.
Yeah,
what do you got, Mark?
I got my espresso. I killed it before we started the interview. By the way, if you're going to are you keeping in the beginning of the interview where I was talking about everything I spilled? Because midway through this interview, I spilled an entire souvenir cup of 76ers souvenir cup, right? I had spilled the whole thing of water all over my desk. It's a miracle I didn't just like go like black. The screen just went black. It's a miracle that didn't happen.
Wow. That's an Archbishop Wood and Temple education, folks. Except I didn't spill my water. I just spilled protein shake all over the place. So there we go. Marc Farzetta, I appreciate your mentorship, friendship.
Oh, geez, please.
Support over the years, and looking forward to staying in touch and having you back on here soon, bro.
Hey, real quick, who was your coach at Romans when you were playing CYO ball?
Tom White, the White family. So you would have been like McCartney days and like those era.
Oh, I didn't play for the Romans, but Tom White's son, Whitey.
Tommy Whitey.
Yeah, I grew up with him, man. We graduated. Yeah, him, Matt Lafferty, those guys. Yeah,
Lafferty.
Man. Those guys were good athletes as opposed to me, not a good athlete.
Matt Lafferty. Who's the guy who played at Ithaca?
It wasn't Matt. I don't think it was Matt because Matt played at Temple.
Josh Falicetti.
Oh my God, Josh! Oh my God, that's a name. Wow.
So Josh Falicetti.
Yeah, sure.
He played at Ithaca College for a guy by the name of Brian Angelico. Brian Angelico recruited me to Pitt and Rutgers as a tight end coach there. He disappeared into the NFL for years and then became my tight end coach in Carolina for 2, and we are now great friends.
Oh, my God.
And Josh Falicetti travels to 1 game a year to watch Angelico coach, and Josh Falicetti was at my only touchdown catch because he came to the Bucs game. So he was my coach of Mount Carmel Romans.
Oh, my God.
Thankfully, I scored that game they came to. I had no idea he was there. And then I saw him at Chop Tank in Annapolis, I don't know, a month ago, having beers. And he's like, dude, I was at your game when you scored. And, you know, it was weird.
Oh,
weird
my
small
God.
world.
That is we have reached the selfish portion of the podcast where Colin and I just name guys we grew up with. Oh, no, that's oh my God, that's too funny.
That is my following base. So, yeah, that is I'm not national.
What's up, Whitey? What's up, Lafferty? What's up, Josh Falicetti? You bastard! You stole the catcher job from me in my 8th grade, your 7th grade year. Great family, though. Great family,
though. Yeah,
I'm not holding a grudge.
Well, I'll meet you at Penis Pizza, Mesquite Grill, and Ventresca's.
I was just at Ventresca's. I had to get fitted. I hosted the Maxwell Awards. I was back in Ventresca's for the first time since I think my senior year of high school for my prom. And I was always a Nat's Pizza guy. I go to Nat's Pizza across the street, see my boy Tim hanging out.
Yeah, I met Nats. That's bad knowledge on me. What a great town, man. Those sounds great.
It was, man. It was great times.
Not Falicetti.
Not Falicetti. Not that. Now, don't you mix me up with his group of Italians.
From one Italian to another. Appreciate you coming on, brother.
Absolutely, my man. Thanks so